Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Blair, or the Illuminati, and today we're going to take a look at a company that reportedly has some really strange, off-putting culture behind it, LuLuLemon. I actually first found out about this company because a friend of mine saw a video about the infamous LuLuLemon murder case, and the YouTuber they were watching briefly mentioned LuLuLemon's strange company culture. And that caught her ear, and after I watched the video, it most certainly caught mine too. So today, we're going to be mostly focusing on the company itself and what is wrong with LuLuLemon's supposed culture and their multiple controversies. You guys know it's pretty much the usual here, so let's get right into it. To start, let's briefly go over the company history. In 2009, a New York Times article called Marketing Pose reads, LuLuLemon was founded in 1998 in Vancouver, British Columbia by a veteran of the surfer snowboard business named Chip Wilson. He found a niche in yoga, explains Eric Peterson, the company's head of marketing. That means there was an opportunity to offer functionality to the serious practitioner via stretchy pants and sweat-absorbing tops and the like. Its promotional strategy revolves heavily around working with yoga instructors and offering free classes to draw in newbies. According to the article, in 2009, the brand was a bit more runner or athlete-focused, but strangely enough, LuLuLemon also sells rain jackets. Peterson says it's due to customer demand, and that is because they're a lifestyle brand. Just as you don't have to skateboard to wear skater pants, you don't have to be able to nail a sun salutation pose to wear yoga pants, they say. And I'm not gonna argue that. Hell, I know plenty of people that own or wear yoga pants all the time but have never done a yoga class. That's fine, wear what you want, go around in a soccer uniform all day if you fucking feel like it. My issue isn't necessarily with the clothes themselves, even though some of them are a bit cash grabby. My issue instead is more in line with what Elaine Lipson, a writer and former editor in Boulder, Colorado, thinks of the whole brand. According to her, LuLuLemon is, at least in part, responsible for transforming something that is basically free into something vaguely upper-class, female, and all about the lifestyle and the clothes. To her, LuLuLemon is peddling props that may offer a sense of community to some but alienate others who might benefit from yoga but don't fit what she calls the chain's yoga chick image and attitude. Now, as irritating as that marketing strategy is, and as much as I agree with Elaine here, that alone isn't something I'd make into a video. Companies do that type of shit all the time, and these lifestyle attitudes are nothing new. But what is it about LuLuLemon specifically that makes the lifestyle they're marketing more dangerous than others? Plain and simple, it stems from their founder, Chip Wilson, and it's the values the company was founded on to begin with that really causes this whole mess. In 2012, Business Insider reported that, financially, LuLuLemon Athletica has gone from strength to strength in the last year. It reported 2011 revenues of $1 billion, up from $712 million the year before for its trendy $98 yoga pants. But that success came at a price. In January, founder Chip Wilson stepped aside and his duties were taken over by CEO Christine Day after he generated a string of unfortunate headlines about his weird beliefs. Those beliefs included favoring child labor, his disdain for the ability of the Japanese to speak English, and a love of Ayn Rand. And his opinion that the pill created a generation of divorce-shattered women now seeking empowerment through yoga. Now, where do I even start with all of that? I would love to say that this is just a case of someone with way too much money believing in some weird shit after years of being surrounded by yes men, but that isn't the case. Chip Wilson read Atlas Shrugged when he was 18 years old and loved the book, which argues that the naked pursuit of self-interest should be society's highest ambition. The book is set in a dystopian world, so I mean, maybe don't take your life values from an objectivist novel, but go off, I guess. Personally, I'm more of the mindset that changing the world for the better in your own way and finding happiness in that, as well as for yourself, is a great moral goal. Chip and I don't have to agree on that. Everyone has their own difference of opinion really on these types of things, and hey, at least if a CEO is going to say their naked pursuit of self-interest is most important, then at least they're being honest about their stance. Like I said in the past, if you're gonna be an asshole, be an honest one. So I guess I can't really fault him on that one, but my god are those views real shit. But look, I wouldn't call Chip an asshole if his moral beliefs were the only problem I had with him. He said some other extremely worrying things, even about the women he markets to. For example, women's life changed entirely after the pill. Men did not know how to relate to the new female. Thus came the era of divorces. With divorce and publicity around equality, women in the 1970s and 80s found themselves operating as power women. The media convinced women that they could win at home and be a man's equal in the business world. Women put in 12-hour workdays, attempted to keep a clean and orderly house, and give their children all the love they had pre-divorce. What they gave up, however, was their social life, exercise, balance, and sleep. And the 1980s gave way to power women dressing like men in boardroom attire with big shoulder pads. They went to 3 martini lunches and smoked because this is what their successful fathers did in the business world. Breast cancer also came into prominence in the 1990s. I suggest this was due to a number of cigarette-smoking power women who were on the pill. Initial concentrations of hormones in the pills were very high, and taking on the stress previously left to men in the working world. Ultimately, LuLuLemon was formed because female education levels, breast cancer, yoga athletics, and the desire to dress feminine came together all at one time. How do I begin to unpack this? Because wow, what a piece of shit. I think that's where I need to start. But okay, let's give me a minute and let me just get my thoughts together on this so I can unpack it. I think the main point here is Chip has actually blamed birth control and smoking on divorce rates, and he treats LuLuLemon as a solution to those things. I am 90% sure that's what I just read. The only correlation between divorce and birth control, if you're straining to find one, is that the nation's first no-fault divorce bill made divorces easier in 1969, and the Supreme Court ruled in 1965 that married couples have a constitutional right to privacy, including the right to use birth control. So sure, I guess an argument could be made that though divorces can still be complicated, divorces rose when birth control did, but it's not as if one caused the other. Plus, a rise in divorces is not always a horrible, tragic thing. It could mean that spouses found it easier to escape abusive relationships, or they were able to leave someone they were no longer in love with, not being forced to stay in an unhappy union forever. But here's where it gets worse. Chip stated that he gave LuLuLemon its name because, according to Chip, he believes that Japanese people can't say the letter L. And I'm not fucking kidding you. This is real. This is real shit right now. It was thought that a Japanese marketing firm would not try to create a North American sounding brand with the letter L because the sound does not exist in Japanese phonetics. By including L in the name, it was thought that Japanese consumers would find the name innately North American and authentic. In essence, the name LuLuLemon has no roots and means nothing other than it has 3 L's in it. Nothing more, nothing less. He even told Canada's National Post Business magazine, "It's funny to watch them try to say it." What a massive fucking asshole. Naming it for phonetics and how the word sounds is fine, but that comment really has my blood boiling. He literally named it to be discriminatory by nature. Chips also said that third world children should be allowed to work in factories because it provides them with much needed wages, hence why he apparently favors child labor. Hell, he even took this a step further and even told the T from Canada that even in Canada, there's a place for 12 and 13-year-old street youths to find work in local factories as an alternative to collecting handouts. I look at it the same way WTO does it, and that is the single easiest way to spread wealth around the world is to have poor countries pull themselves out of poverty, Wilson told the T. BAL BC Executive Director Penny Scott was at the speech in January. He was really raising a gray area and didn't address the other issues, like where the kids are living, what they're being paid, if they're going to school, if they're being taken care of in those other ways, Scott said. Vancouver-based LuLuLemon built its reputation as an ethical brand by using local labor to manufacture its clothing. Until recently, LuLuLemon produced most of its clothing in a non-union shop in East Vancouver with a little more than 100 workers. And here's where shit gets really, really fucking despicable, okay? Because LuLuLemon was able to build up a brand in Vancouver by being ethical. They used local labor, not child labor, even though sweatshops in Vancouver are common. Yet, rather than point out how amazing that is and advocate for more companies doing this, fucking Chip here has the nerve to tell a Canadian newsletter that there's a place for their children in factories. What absolute bullshit. And of course, their company mantra, according to Business Insider, is that stress is related to 99% of all illnesses. And Chip argues that if you get sick, it's probably your own fault. Can stress make an illness worse? Abso-fucking-lutely. Can it even cause someone to be severely sick? Yes. But show me your sources on that 99% number, Chip. Or start visiting hospitals and telling patients to not be stressed if that's apparently the source of all fucking illnesses here. I'd love to see how that goes for you. But of course, he won't. The most notable comments Chip made, or at least the most viral comments that supposedly led to his resignation, were the fat-shaming ones. So we didn't even get into apparently the worst ones yet. These are just the ones that didn't even make, for some reason, huge headlines, which to me, these are horrific enough. But let's keep going. Time reported that LuLuLemon had to recall a line of its pants in June because of complaints that the women bent over to do downward dog and the fabric became see-through. And in the past month, customers have been grumbling that the new pant material pills, which is particularly enraging given that they cost $98. In a Bloomberg interview on November 8th, Wilson said in response to questions about the pilling and see-through pants, "Quite frankly, some women's bodies just don't work for the pants. It's really about the rubbing through the thighs, how much pressure is there over a period of time." And here's the thing. If you're going to charge pretty much $100 or more for a pair of yoga pants, you can't blame a woman's thighs for being the reason the material wears out. I'm sorry, but you just fucking can't. If someone buys yoga pants at the dollar store, Walmart, whatever, you get what you pay for. Which, by the way, some of Walmart stuff fucking slaps. But anyway, that's a total side note. But if LuLuLemon can't cater to plus sizes, then they shouldn't sell them in the first place, and most certainly shouldn't be charging those prices, and most certainly should not be placing blame on them for that either. After a week, an online petition asking him to say he's sorry, Wilson responded by releasing a teary video on the company's Facebook page. He apologized to his employees for the repercussions of his actions, saying several times how sad he was about everything he'd put them through because of all the bad press. He didn't, however, apologize to the consumers. And personally, I think that's not only rude, but really stupid of LuLuLemon to not cater to plus-size women or men, as a matter of fact, with their products. If plus-size individuals want to get healthy or lose weight, they need the support and products to do so, and that includes support bras, athletic pants, lightweight workout shirts, you name it. And this might sound obvious or really cheesy, but I'm far more motivated to work out and be active if I have a great sports bra, comfy pants, and I'm just I'm looking great, I'm feeling great, and I'm ready to sweat my brains out. I'm into that. And I feel like that is the case for a lot of people at any shape and any size. So for LuLuLemon to say that their products just don't work for plus-size people is not only really nasty and trashy and alienating, but it's extremely stupid, and it's a terrible marketing move considering plus-size women, that demographic, that market share, is huge now, especially in the US, and you're just excluding those sales entirely. And Chip's apology to his employees, but not the consumers, it's pathetic. Hell, even some former LuLuLemon employees have said that discouraging plus-size customers has actually been part of the brand's strategy. A size 10 or 12, which are the largest sizes they make, can be hard to find in an urban LuLuLemon store, and no customer wants to endure the embarrassment of asking a clerk to go find a bigger size. So sure, Chip, I bet you're real sorry. That sounds like you're very sorry if that's been built into your sales culture. Oh yeah, so sorry. Now look, I've given Chip a ton of crap here, and deservedly so, I might add. But apparently, he already stepped down in 2014 and, as of 2016, made a website to criticize his own company and say how it had fallen downhill without him. Can you imagine founding a company, having to step down because of controversial or rude and garbage statements, and then going to make a website to then criticize that company? This guy's bananas. I don't even know what to make of him. But enough about Chip for now. We're going to get into LuLuLemon itself because they have more problems than a horrible founder on their hands. So first, we're going to get into the false advertising issues here. In 2007, LuLuLemon began selling a new line called Vita C that the company said was made with seaweed, probably as a way of jumping on that all-natural trend even further since they already had clothes made with bamboo, silver, charcoal, coconut, and soybeans. I get wanting your food to be made healthy, but I've never heard of clothes being made out of soybeans. Cool concept, but I've literally never heard of it before. Maybe I'm just a little more out of the loop with the fashion trends than I thought, but anyway. The fabric, according to the product tags, releases marine amino acids, minerals, and vitamins into the skin upon contact with moisture. LuLuLemon, which has received positive media coverage for its fabrics, also says the Vita C clothing, made from seaweed fiber supplied by a company called C-Cell, reduces stress and provides anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, hydrating, and detoxifying benefits. There is one problem with its VitaC claims, however. Some of them may not be true. The New York Times commissioned a laboratory test of a LuLuLemon shirt made of VitaC and reviewed a similar test performed at another lab, and both came to the same conclusion. There was no significant difference in mineral levels between the VitaC fabric and cotton t-shirts. In other words, the labs found no evidence of seaweed in the LuLuLemon clothing. And there's not much else to the story. They just straight up lied. The director for specialized services at Chemere Analytical Services, Carolyn J. Otten, said they searched the clothes specifically for the vitamins found in seaweed and didn't find them. And how did Chip respond? "If you actually put it on and wear it, it is different from cotton. That's my only test of it," he said. I don't know whether to laugh or bang my head against a wall over such a statement. Put it on and it felt different than cotton. That doesn't make it seaweed. Like, what the fuck? That doesn't mean you can run around telling people it's seaweed when it just isn't. I just can't tell people that my merch is made from 100% rare sheep wool from Icelandic mountains or some shit because I want to or because it feels different than regular shirts. Like, that's not how it works. Now, Canada was actually on the ball for this one and got them to remove these products, but as of writing this, they still have VitaC fabrics listed on their website and it's described like it's some cutting-edge technology, so here's the real tea about it, so sorry to ruin that for anyone listening. Plus, for being so high in price, they may not always be high quality. A March 2013 LA Times article says, it seems that LuLuLemon, a Vancouver-based company, had to recall some of its yoga pants because they were too sheer. This is not, it turns out, a minor problem. When I heard about the scandal at LuLuLemon, the Canadian company that makes expensive yoga clothes, I immediately called my dear friend Julie, a yoga fanatic in Santa Barbara. Julie is one of these dual American-Canadian citizens who cannot discuss anything that is remotely Canadian without telling you so. It's a Canadian company, she replied. They're the Rolls-Royce of yoga clothes, super expensive. As Julie pointed out, however, it's not just the adorably named LuLuLemon that has a problem with see-through yoga pants. Many brands, when stretched just so, are sheer. One time, Julie said, I was in class and the woman in front of me bent down and I was kind of thinking, you should be wearing something underneath that. It's not super offensive and you won't see it when they're walking down the street. It's only when they bend over and their butt's in your face. Is this a gigantic issue? Again, this alone would not be worth making an entire video on. Plenty of clothing companies have overpriced products and that the products underperform in certain areas. It's my opinion. You pay for the brand name sometimes, but combined with everything else that we've gone over so far, it's kind of starting to add up that there's a little more than just the surface level of these leggings are a little sheer. Now, we've touched on this briefly before, but when talking about how LuLuLemon employees discourage plus-size consumers, but now we're actually going to dig in a little deeper into the disturbing culture behind LuLuLemon. One HuffPost article written by Elizabeth Licorice goes into how incredibly weird and cultish the whole place can be. Here's what she said. The LuLuLemon culture consists, on the surface, of catchy manifestos. LuLuLemon wants you to know it's elevating the world from mediocrity to greatness and creating components for people to live long, healthy, and fun lives. But dig deeper and you'll learn about Landmark Forum, the ultra-secretive, eerily cultish educational series which LuLuLemon employees are strongly encouraged to attend. Before you're in line for Landmark, you're bombarded with Brian Tracy motivational CDs and a book club that culminates with Atlas Shrugged. Successful LuLuLemon employees can recite Brian Tracy better than the Pledge of Allegiance. Mention Chip Wilson, LuLuLemon's founder and former CEO, and their eyes will light up and quickly glaze over. They'll tell you quite seriously that he saved their lives by elevating them to greatness. All of this sort of made walking into work feel like time traveling to Salem, because with the LuLuLemon creed and catechism comes a collective mentality that thrives on scapegoats and leaves you feeling worthless if you subsist on anything but spring water and kale. Once, another employee sneered at me from across the floor and said the soda I happened to be enjoying would rot me from the inside out. Eventually, we were all issued reusable acrylic cups and forbidden to drink anything but H2O. We'd be encouraged to give feedback, a terrible calculated misnomer for ruthless criticism that could veer from professional to personal in 60 seconds flat. If a customer dismissed your sales pitch because, let's say, he was in a bad mood, one of your fellow teammates would pull you aside and say your conversational style lacked genuine authenticity. She'd insinuate that you lack authenticity, that you aren't equipped enough as a human to sell yoga pants. Elizabeth even speculates that it was this creepy environment that may have sent an already psychologically emotional, vulnerable person over the edge when Brittany Norwood murdered Jana Murray, a fellow employee at the store. And Norwood didn't simply attack Murray, she actually tried to stage it as a crime scene after stabbing Murray and using a hammer, wrench, and mannequin peg to inflict over 300 wounds on Murray before she died. Norwood was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, thankfully, and I really can't speculate as to what it was that made her do this. Most sources I've seen cite Norwood stealing from the company as the cause, or at least a very large reason as to why she snapped and did this. That article from HuffPost saying it's part of the culture, sure, that's a possibility. But I can't blame LuLuLemon without evidence or imply that they should take some responsibility without proof. I don't know how many people have had Elizabeth's experience at LuLuLemon. If you did, feel free to let me know in the comments section, because if it's true, it's definitely worrying. And as for a side note about the whole true crime stuff about the murder, I have been watching so many of those documentaries, and every single time they say like that there's an excessive amount of like stabbing, gunshots, whatever, like an excessive amounts of like damage, I guess. That's probably not the right way to phrase it, but like when you excessively murder the shit out of someone, it's usually motivated by like anger or sexual stuff or whatever. And this definitely sounds like that was motivated by a lot of fucking anger. So to think it's just stealing from the company, like to me, that doesn't make sense, but I'm not a crime scene investigator or anything, so take that with a pinch of salt. In addition to this HuffPost article, other sources have come out with articles about LuLuLemon's strange behind-the-scenes activities. One article from CNBC in 2018 stated that the CEO, Laurent Potdevin, had a multi-year relationship with a female designer. They continued to say, the sportswear retailer on Monday announced Potdevin's resignation, saying he fell short of standards of conduct to respect employees and show integrity. Sources previously told CNBC it was not one particular action that led to the resignation. LuLuLemon's board has started searching for a new global CEO. Potdevin's relationship with the designer is one of several instances in which he demonstrated a lack of leadership at LuLuLemon, sources tell CNBC. Former employees say he had a negative impact on the company culture, which they described as toxic. Anytime violations of company policy or standards of conduct are brought to our attention, we take appropriate action, a spokesperson for LuLuLemon said. This may not go into extreme detail about that toxic culture, but considering that LuLuLemon is credited as being the first to kick off the craze of the athleisure trend, it's not hard to believe that the power, influence, and money got to their heads. The Wall Street Journal also published an article online, video attached, where they say that as opposed to data analytics, they would spy on customers. Now, at first, it sounds like they just want to ask customers questions, what they like, what you don't like, you name it. There's nothing wrong with that. Gathering feedback is a good thing. But this is literally eavesdropping. They position their folding tables by the dressing room, consciously writing what customers are saying and reporting back to the CEO. They even have chalkboards in the fitting rooms where customers can write down what they like and don't like. But supposedly the CEO literally stopped production on a sweater when a customer complained about the fit of the sleeves. So one person's feedback was so impactful that it just erased a product from existence. I think it's really just the listening in that bothers me here. If an employee came up to me and asked me what I thought of their products to help them improve, I'm all for that. But to feel like I'm being watched or spied on in their store, in their dressing rooms, not so much. Plus, getting rid of the data analytics and the reasons behind this doesn't seem like a great answer either, but rather maybe they should use it in combination with listening to the customers. That could be just me, but personally, I don't know anyone that would be thrilled about a clothing company store employee listening to them through a fitting room door or curtain. Now, all of this being said, I personally believe there's just better places for yoga pants. I don't think Chip deserves anyone's money given his blatant racist, fat-shaming, and sexist remarks. The environment has been called toxic a number of times. Their products are overpriced. I can't find anything worth buying from this place. $98 for yoga pants, y'all have got to be fucking kidding me. I am not doing that. If you really love LuLuLemon as a brand, obviously I can't stop you from buying from them, and nor would I really want to, but I want you to be an educated consumer so you know where your money goes every time you buy a $98 pair of yoga pant legging things. But for me at least, my money's not going to LuLuLemon. So that's where I'm going to end today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to tell me in the comments section your thoughts and opinions as to what happened below, and if you liked today's video, make sure to hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and if you want more content from me, you can pop open my description box for all of my sources, my social media, like links to other YouTube channels I work with, all that kind of stuff. Links for everything will be in the description box down below. So again, thank you guys so much for making it to today's video. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!